A lot of these properties are located very close to electrical substations and critical infrastructure. Maine really doesn't have that much critical infrastructure, but we do have some, and it does kind of make your spidey sense tingle a little bit when you see a facility that's part of a criminal organization located really close to a facility that could shut down, if you knew what you were doing, could shut down power for all of northern Maine in the middle of winter, which could be a very real problem.
Hey folks, I'm back with Steve Robinson of the Maine Wire, and we are diving back into the massive grow operation going on right now in Maine. That's massive marijuana grows in Maine, which far exceed, if you all listen to part one, you will know this, that far exceed just marijuana grows. What we are seeing is something I would consider unique, and something much more complex involving criminal organizations, overseas adversaries like China, people that could be very well connected to spy networks and criminal activity, both in the transnational criminal form, but also in the United States. And what does that mean? Where is the money, right? How do we trace that financing? What does that mean? How and who is making the money? How are they getting it? Who is making it? Who is covering up for it? I mean, these are questions that we need answered. And by the way, what is going to blow your mind is that some of these grows are in homes, right, in regular neighborhoods. Some of them have taken large swaths of land and then siphoned off water from other neighbors, or have left bills in the tens of thousands of dollars to the state every month, or they're actually paying people $15,000, $20,000 for new plumbing or electricity. I mean, this is absolutely incredible, because the FBI and local law enforcement have done very little to stop this or curb it. Why? What's going on here? How deep does this go? And by the way, some of these areas that we're talking about, some of the places in Maine in these rural communities, some of them aren't just growing marijuana. We don't know what's going in and going on inside some of these places, but very likely, there could be activity, like I said, that goes all the way back to our adversaries like the Chinese Communist Party, that there's a possibility that maybe some of these areas, some of the people operating in these facilities are members of the Chinese military. Or like in California, when there was a biolab that was discovered that was connected to the Chinese government. Yes, in California. Look it up. We have Steve Robinson on the show today. He has done incredibly great reporting on this subject. He and Jenny Terr are working on these stories. You know Jenny Terr from the Daily Caller. She worked with me for 3.5 years. They are on this. Steve Robinson has been on this and just taking apart. He's at themainewire.com, just investigating this in his community and what this means for us on a national level. And I am so excited to get him back on the Sara Carter Show. And I am very much excited about diving deeper into this investigation and where the money is going and who is benefiting from it. But first, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients. I talk about this a lot. Thank you, HelloFresh. And especially right now at Christmas time, you want, or Hanukkah, you want to have your freedom, right? You got to get out there and shop. You got to catch up. It's just past Thanksgiving. We have so much work to do this winter holiday. Well, how do you save some time? You save time the way I do. You try to find out, what can I do more efficiently? And part of that is cooking at night for my family. When I'm home, I want to be able to cook a meal that they love. I want it to be within a good time frame, and I want it to be like the foods that we normally eat. But guess what? There are times I want to cook something new and different. HelloFresh allows me to do that. It allows me to save time. It allows me to save money. That is what is so awesome about this. And that's the reason why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. The holidays, like I said, are right around the corner, and HelloFresh can help take the stress out of dinner by delivering everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right to your door, saving you tons of time. Just like always, HelloFresh's ingredients travel from the farm to the door, so you know they are fresh. And everything arrives pre-portioned so that you get right to cooking quickly and your kids can get involved in it, just like Annalise does with me. When she sees the recipes, she gets excited. She gets to pick what meal she wants that night, and we do it together. We cut the vegetables, we get the seasoning ready, we fry it up together if that's what we're doing, or we bake it in the oven. But HelloFresh allows your family to be involved in the cooking process, making it not only faster and more convenient, but giving time to your family, which is what they desperately, desperately want. Everybody wants to spend quality time together. Go to HelloFresh.com/Sara Carter free and use code Sara Carter free for a free breakfast for life. Did you hear that? Free breakfast for life. 1 breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's 3 breakfasts for life at HelloFresh.com/Sara Carter free with code Sara Carter free. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Folks, when we left off with Steve, we were turning our focus to the financing of these Chinese marijuana farms. Take a listen. Let me ask you this. What banks are financing this? Because I know in a recent article, you kind of alluded that there was a single bank that was financing most of this. I mean, don't they have a role here in this?
Yeah, so there's one bank that I started to recognize in the property records. It's called Quontic Bank, Quontic, and it's a bank based in New York City, and they're a community development.
Of course they are.
Yeah, so they're a community development finance institution. So they have this special designation, and they get funding from taxpayers in order to encourage loans to historically marginalized communities like migrants,
like transnational criminal organizations, because they need all the help that they can get. That's what our taxpayer dollars are going to. It's always like, it's follow the money, and you will just be shocked. Okay, say it again. I know every listener out there is like, why am I not getting a cut of the marijuana grow right now? Because it's my taxpayer dollars that are funding this.
Well, I think if I tried to do what some of these organizations are doing, the law enforcement might find it in their hearts to come after me. So I'll let the listeners determine what the difference is there. But Quontic is, again, receiving a taxpayer-funded benefit in order to, grease the skids for these loans. And they'd really done very few of them in Maine prior to 2019. I was only able to find, I think, less than 10 records of them doing any business whatsoever in Maine. And then all of a sudden, after marijuana is legalized in Maine for adult use, they are doing 70 of them. There's 2 mortgage officers who originated the majority of those loans. One of them is a Taiwanese national, and one of them is a Chinese national who actually went to a university in China that has ties to the Chinese government and the Chinese military, focused on economic espionage, by the way. So, I mean, this is called, once again,
unrestricted warfare. And I want everyone to understand how China operates. The Chinese government is brilliant. They understand how to operate these massive, I call them the biggest, this is like the greatest chess game of all. They look at our failure and where we're weakest, and they utilize our failures against us. They help us hurt ourselves. So this is what they're doing. And I'm going to let you explain, because I think this is very good that you went this deep into finding out who was behind it. So explain about these nationals that are connected to the Chinese government.
Yeah, so Yingchan Wang is one of the loan officers who processed about half of the loans that we found. I actually called her for an interview, and she appeared to be very surprised that this was happening and said she was going to talk with her company and have them, stop doing these loans. But then Quontic stopped all communication with me, and I wasn't able to get a hold of the other gentleman, Stephen Ho, who is a Taiwanese national, and I wasn't able to report on any connections that he might have with the Chinese government. But it did. People I talked with in the mortgage industry and in real estate here in Maine said that it would be highly, highly, highly unusual for two young people with no ties to Maine whatsoever to go from doing no mortgages in the state of Maine, and then all of a sudden they're doing, like 20 a year. And it also turns out that when you visit these sites, it's very obvious what they're doing at these locations. So that's one aspect, I think, that would merit a federal investigation, because you're talking about, interstate commerce here. This goes beyond something that a sheriff in Maine or the Maine State Police could deal with. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm on the part of especially the state police to do anything about this.
I don't understand why and you were talking about, state to state transnational criminal organizations, and issues that I would believe would bring in the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah.
I mean, they do spend a lot of time investigating parents at school board meetings. Why is this not a top priority? I would imagine this would be a really big priority if I was an FBI agent or even a DEA agent working on transnational criminal organizations with the Department of Justice.
Yeah, I would think in order for these sites to really get the FBI's attention, some of the individuals associated with them would probably have to go pray outside an abortion clinic or go to a school board meeting and raise their voice. Then maybe the FBI would take an interest in cracking down on them.
You're arrested. That's it.
But they, for the most part, these people are keeping to themselves and not really allowed to leave their homes. Which gets me to another point, is that the operations have all the trappings of human trafficking. And there was an operation on the Navajo reservation in New Mexico. And I talked with a lawyer who's representing some of the Chinese illegal aliens who were brought to the country under false pretenses. They were told that they were going to have jobs working at a flower greenhouse. And when they got to the greenhouse, they took away their car keys, they took away their cell phones, and nope, you were on Navajo land where the laws are much different than they are in the United States. And you were working 14, 15 hours a day as a illegal marijuana farmer. So they actually, I think there's a Department of Labor complaint in that case, but the individuals that I've interacted with at these locations, they don't seem they don't speak any English. They seem like they're isolated. So if you don't speak English and you're brought to a house in northern rural Maine and you don't have a car,
right,
really what option is available to you for escaping? Not much. Even if you knew where you were going or could find somebody, there's not a lot available to you to escape. So it does not seem like these people are here under accurate pretenses. There are some individuals that we've interacted with who seem like maybe they're, capos or lieutenants or a little bit higher ranking in the organization. But most of the workers at these sites, I think, are victims of human trafficking, which is tragic, and something you would think that federal authorities would be interested in looking into.
Absolutely. It was the same. This is what's fascinating to me, that what I was seeing happening overseas, like in the Persian Gulf, and I saw that quite often with young girls. I would stay at a hotel in the Persian Gulf. I won't name which country in the Persian Gulf. There were a few of them. And I would go to the hotel. I would talk to the young ladies there. And they would say to me, they took my passports. I came from Thailand, or I came from whatever, wherever. They would bring them in from Polynesian islands in some cases sometimes. And they would go to the hotel to work, and all of a sudden they were indentured servants. There were many cases, and I'll mention this country. There was cases in Qatar, and even in Kuwait, where girls would go missing, and they were afraid that they had been murdered, and nobody would investigate. This is not supposed to be happening in the United States of America. We have principles that we're supposed to be living by. We have law enforcement officials that are supposed to be, keeping an eye out on all of this. And we have a federal government, unfortunately, that is, I think, aiding and abetting because they've allowed this to continue. When you talk to people that, like the lawyers, for example, that would be representing these victims of human trafficking, or you talk to people that, that would be there to help them and help them maybe get out of these situations, what are they saying to you about that? Because a lot of times these NGOs are back and forth. I'm grateful for them. I want to see them do the good work, of helping victims. But then they're like, well, but we got the border wide open. We should let everybody in. But it doesn't work both ways.
Yeah, the lawyers that I've talked with who work on behalf of victims of human trafficking read the details of the situation as we've reported them in Maine and say, yes, this is quite likely what's happening. And again, Homeland Security in their memo also said that there's human trafficking happening here. For me as a reporter who doesn't speak Mandarin, it's difficult for me to interact with these people and say, are you a victim? And then when they do interact with me, they have to call someone in New York or Massachusetts on their phone to translate. And the last thing I want to do is bring them under higher scrutiny by asking, hey, is this woman here on her own free will, or is she being held against her will? So it's a very difficult and challenging thing for a reporter to work on. But there's no reason to believe that these people are getting paid a fair wage to come to these places. You don't see them at supermarkets. They very rarely leave the houses. Most of the time, the only thing they really leave the house for is to go to the grow supply stores in northern Maine, where they're buying fertilizer, additives, hydroponic equipment, soil, that kind of thing, because they're known notoriously at every grow shop in Maine for picking up massive amounts of supplies on a regular basis. There are grow shops in Maine that really, really like these organizations because they're getting $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month in added spend from buyers who are, wouldn't be there but for the illegal operation. So that's, maybe another aspect of this story is that there are a lot of people who are benefiting from this operation in Maine, and not specifically people who are taking untoward payments, but electricians in this state have been carrying out these modifications on properties for 3 years now. And when you start to look at installing a 400 amp service panel, just to give you a sense of the electricity that operation would be consuming, most houses in Maine have a 100 amp electric panel. So you're looking at 4 times the number of electrical capacity running into these homes. And the install fee on that could be as high as $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. And that's the money that the electrician's making. And some electricians in Maine that I've talked with have decided, I don't really want to be doing this anymore. During the pandemic, maybe it was different and I didn't really understand what was going on. Times were tough. So now they'll start, when they get asked to do one of these installs, they'll say, all right, it's going to be $10,000, $12,000. They'll throw out some ridiculous price that no legitimate business owner would take. And the guys just say, yep, all right, when can you come?
So they're like, they're like, okay, well, I tried to get out of it, but the guy's giving me too much money, which I understand. Yeah. No, which I understand that if their cops aren't doing anything, if the state isn't doing anything, if the FBI isn't doing anything, they're thinking like, well, okay, then I'm going to just get this work done. I think what is really, but what about the bill then that's left with the state, right? Or the home that then becomes unlivable to some extent if they're doing it in a home, like you explained, where a ton of work needs to be done. You can't even sell the house, or the shortage on homes and then the shortage on land. I think what you're coming into, though, is so much bigger of a story. Like you touched on a few areas. One, the possibility of people being corrupted by this money and allowing these, foreign national or these criminal organizations to operate in your state. And that could lead to God only knows what. So, that's part of that investigation. The bank, the FBI. Where do you go next in this investigation? You and Jenny have done such incredible work. How are you going? Are you following the money? Are you just going to continue to expose those tentacles off of this?
Yeah, there are some sites that we've identified that certainly merit further scrutiny, and they're sites that frankly don't appear to be growing marijuana, but have a high degree of activity and secrecy around them. And individuals who have done the power modifications at these sites have described to us dozens of young military-aged Chinese males with close-cropped hair wearing camouflage who are very insistent that they not visit certain parts of the property while they're there doing work or doing an inspection on the panel. So there are some sites that we're going to continue to look at. And also in terms of the finances of it, there are two very large electrical utilities in the state of Maine. One is a company called Versant, and the other is Central Maine Power. Central Maine Power is owned by Avangrid, which is owned by Iberdrola, which is a Spanish company whose lead investor is the Qatari Sovereign Wealth Fund. The other power company is owned by the Wealth Fund of Calgary, Alberta. So the electric companies that are doing the work on these properties are not owned by Mainers or even American interests. And it's indisputable that they're financial beneficiaries of these operations and that they've known what's going on because they monitor the increases in electricity use of these properties. And when Granny Smith owns the mobile home for 10 years and the power usage is X, but then a new family comes in and the power usage goes to 100X, they see those reports. They know that that's happening. But they're currently under an obligation they claim to protect the privacy of their customers where they can't share that information with law enforcement even if they wanted to. But they've seen these properties because in many instances, what happens is they're trying to draw too much power through the transformer. So just again, to give you an understanding of electricity, if you've got 2 or 3 houses in Maine, they can probably all run off a 10 kVA transformer. Some of these properties will blow the 10 kVA. So a bunch of their neighbors lose power for however long, and then they get their own 25 kVA transformer and they blow that, and then they get a 50 kVA and they blow that, and then they get a 75 kVA and they blow that, and so on and so forth until they're getting just an insane amount of electricity at these properties. And again, not all of them are doing marijuana grows. It doesn't appear to us. So it's there are several more curious avenues of exploration on this story. And a lot of it involves following the money.
We could all benefit from heart healthy energy. Super Beets Heart Chews are an easy and convenient way to support healthy blood pressure. And you know how much that means to me. They're plant-based and stimulant-free, so you get a green boost without the jitters. How awesome is that? Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And you know how I feel about that. I travel a lot. I want to have my vitamins with me. I want to feel good. I want to make sure that I am heart healthy and that I'm ready to not even tackle just the job, but that when I get home, I'll be here for my family and feeling good and feeling great. And I do that with Super Beets Heart Chews. I just take them with me, put them in my pocket, put them in my purse. Wherever I go, I make sure to take 2 every day, and I feel phenomenal when I do it. Folks, trust me, get Super Beets. Super Beets is also trusted by collegiate athletes and pro sports teams. Why? Because it supports performance and endurance, and you are going to feel it immediately. Double your potential with Super Beet Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews and a free full-size bag of turmeric chews valued at $25 by going to americalovesbeets.com. Get this exclusive offer only at americalovesbeets.com. If you love interviews with bright young reporters like Steve Robinson, make sure you are subscribed to the Sara Carter Show here on Rumble, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app. It makes a difference.
There's also going to be an interesting political debate that's about to unfold in Maine because there's going to be one bill that made it past the Legislative Council that will be heard in January. And this is from Representative John Andrews, who's a Republican. And his bill would look to give Maine basically a RICO statute so that a DA or an attorney general could go after this organization, like using a federal RICO law. And he's also looking to restrict the purchases of properties by individuals from countries of concern. So North Korea, Iran, China. If you're a foreign national from one of those countries, it's a hostile enemy of the US, then you shouldn't be buying businesses or land in Maine, which is the kind of the theory of what he's arguing. But it's really going to pit wealthy Southern Maine liberals against Northern Mainers who tend to be more conservative, because the problem is really focused on it's focused in rural Maine, because that's where the cheaper property was. So people in the southern part of the state don't have this as in their face as people in the more rural part of the state.
Well, I got to tell you, this is a awesome investigation. I haven't seen an investigation this good in a long time. I mean, I'm talking like in a very long time, maybe like decades.
Well,
I mean, this is so
I appreciate you saying that. It became a little bit of an obsession. I'm sure my wife is tired of hearing me talk about it.
Oh, no, I get it. Cause I'm an investigative columnist now, but I was an investigative reporter. So I loved doing this. I loved being on the front lines, digging deep, following the money, tracking the money, seeing where it goes, because what unfolds is so much more of a story. It's never just about one document. It's never just about one person. It's never just about one place. Once you start looking deep into an issue, it becomes a whole, and sometimes it's not even what you imagined, right? Sometimes it's not even what you imagined. I mean, you're looking now at you're going off into an area that I think I have seen in the past. And I think you need to go there. And it's going to be a tough road, but I believe that there is a lot of issues with internal spying networks inside our nation, and ones that will take you to places you can't even imagine, like the Twilight Zone, literally.
Yeah.
It will blow your mind.
I mean, I think that's going to be a conversation here in the state of Maine as well, about the corporate espionage that some of these organizations engage in, the tech threat, their ability, a lot of these properties are located very close to electrical substations and critical infrastructure. Maine really doesn't have that much critical infrastructure, but we do have some, and it does kind of make your spidey sense tingle a little bit when you see a facility that's part of a criminal organization located really close to a facility that could shut down, if you knew what you were doing, could shut down power for all of northern Maine in the middle of winter, which could be a very real problem.
Absolutely.
So I think that you're right, that there's a lot of tentacles to this one, and we'll continue to explore every single one of them.
Hey, I know I've kept you more than you can even imagine. And I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm going to be bringing you back if you so choose. Stephen, we have you at the mainwire.com, the mainwire.com. I'm going to be pushing this. You and Jenny Tier, who I worked with, I love her. She worked with me for like over 3 years, doing incredible work now. Steve Robinson, folks, this is a name you will remember. This is a name that's going to be becoming more and more popular in investigative journalism. Steve Robinson, working with the mainwire.com, right? The mainwire.com. Yes. And where can people follow you on? Where can we follow you on X? Where can we follow you on Instagram? Give us your bona fides. Where can we follow you?
We're on. I'm on Instagram at BigSteve207, and the Maine Wire's on.
Going on it right now.
Sorry, not Instagram. I'm on X, and formerly Twitter, as BigSteve207, and then we're just on all the platforms as at the Maine Wire.
Thank you so much, Steve, for coming on the Sara Carter Show again today. I'm sure we'll have you on again very soon. You're doing phenomenal work, and your investigation is one that everyone is going to be paying attention to. Please make sure you are subscribed to the Sara Carter Show here on your favorite podcast app. It really does help. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God protect us from our adversaries, and God bless the great state of Texas.